Imagine a kind, middle-aged man who has worked at the same cafe for at least 20 years, seemingly in good health, suddenly discovering he has only 1 year left to live. Finnegan, despite leading a simple life, was happy. He had a loving wife, Arlena, who always supported his dreams and ambitions, even when circumstances didn't allow them to move forward. He believed that his purpose in life was to help others, and this belief guided him every day. On that particular morning, Finn was more contemplative than usual. There was a slight apprehension in his heart, a restlessness he couldn't quite explain. After finishing his shift at the cafe, he had a routine medical appointment, something that still caused him a bit of anxiety. The waiting room of the doctor's office was quiet, with soft music playing in the background, but his heart raced with every passing minute. Soon, he was called into the doctor's office. Dr. Miller, a gray-haired man with a gentle expression, greeted him with a smile before reviewing his tests. Finn watched every movement, trying to read the doctor's expressions to gauge what was coming. After a few moments of silence, the doctor looked up, and the room seemed to grow colder. "Finn, I have something serious to discuss with you," Dr. Miller began, his voice low and careful. "The tests have revealed something concerning. Unfortunately, you have a serious condition. It's a terminal illness." The room seemed to spin. The words echoed in Finn's mind like a distant thunder, each one hitting him with a crushing force. Dr. Miller continued explaining the situation, but Finn could only focus on one thing. He had only 1 year left to live. Those words felt like a sentence that changed everything. He thought about Arlena, how he would tell her, how she would react to the news. He thought about the days he still wanted to live, the experiences he wanted to have, and more importantly, the legacy he wanted to leave. Dr. Miller tried to comfort him, offering supportive words and options for managing his health in the remaining months, but Finn was too distant to really absorb what was being said. The world as he knew it was crumbling, and he felt lost in a sea of uncertainties. Leaving the doctor's office, Finn walked the streets with hesitant steps. The sunlight seemed to have lost its intensity, and the city noise now sounded muffled. He was alone with his thoughts, trying to process what he had just heard. He stopped at a nearby park, sitting on a bench in the shade of an old tree, took a deep breath, and sought to find some form of inner peace. Finn was in the kitchen, the place where he usually found comfort and joy, but today he felt as if he were trapped in a nightmare. Arlena was sitting at the table, flipping through a magazine, and her presence, normally reassuring, now seemed like a reminder of how life was about to change. Finn knew there was no more time to delay the conversation he needed to have. He had tried to find the right words, but now he knew he just needed to be honest. "Arlena," Finn began, his voice faltering slightly. Arlena looked up from the magazine, noticing the seriousness in his tone. She set the magazine down on the table, a simple gesture that signaled her full attention. "Yes, Finn, what is it?" she asked, her voice calm, but concern starting to form in her eyes. Finn sat down beside her, trying to appear calm, but his breathing was heavy. "I went to the doctor today," he began, his voice almost a whisper. "The tests. The results weren't good." Arlena furrowed her brow, her eyes widening with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. "What did he say? What's the problem?" Finn took a deep breath, the pain and sadness clearly visible on his face. "I have a terminal illness," he said, the words coming out heavy and painful. "The doctor said I have only a year to live, maybe a little more if things go well." Finn's words hung in the air, and the silence that followed seemed to weigh tons. Arlena blinked slowly, as if trying to process what she had just heard. Her eyes filled with tears, and she brought her hands to her face, unable to hide the shock and pain she was feeling. "It can't be true," Arlena murmured, her words almost inaudible. "Are you serious, Finn?" Finn nodded, the sadness reflected in his eyes. "Yes, it's serious. I don't know what to do with this, Arlena. I'm trying to process it, but it's hard. It's like the ground has disappeared beneath my feet." Arlena stood up and began to pace back and forth, her mind racing to try to understand the devastating impact of the news. Finn watched her, feeling helpless as he saw the pain in her eyes, the grief that was about to descend upon their lives. "And now?" Arlena finally asked, stopping in front of Finn. Her voice was laden with despair. "What do we do? How will we cope with this?" Finn shook his head, struggling to find the words. "I don't know. I just wanted you to know. I want us to face this together, but it's so difficult. I don't want this to drive us apart, Arlena. I want us to find a way to deal with it, even if it's just one day at a time." Arlena looked at him with an expression of deep sadness and helplessness. "I don't know how to deal with this either, Finn. It's such a heavy burden." Finn reached out to her, trying to offer a gesture of comfort, but Arlena hesitated for a moment before taking his hand. "I promise we'll do the best we can. I know it's hard, but we'll face this together, no matter what happens." Days passed, and Finn discussed his desire to adopt a child with Orson, hoping that it would give his life more meaning. His friend supported him immediately, but as Finn crossed the threshold of his home, he knew he needed to have a difficult conversation with his wife, Arlena. "I've been thinking about our life and what I want to leave behind," he began, carefully choosing his words. "You know, we've always talked about having children, and I really want to do that. Adopt a child, give a family to someone who needs it." Arlena remained silent, her face a mix of surprise and concern. She had always known about Finn's desire to adopt, but the circumstances were different now. "Finn, you know how much I love you and respect your dreams," she began, her voice filled with sincerity. "But you also know our situation now. I'm worried, dear. I don't know if I can raise a child on my own after you're gone." Arlena's words pierced Finn's heart like a dagger. He understood her concerns, but the idea of not fulfilling his dream left him deeply saddened. It felt as if every hope he had built was slowly fading away. "I understand, Arlena, and I don't want to overwhelm you," he responded, his voice gentle yet firm. "But I feel that adopting would be something incredible, not just for me, but for both of us. We could give love and a home to a child who needs it. It's a way to leave a legacy, to make a difference while I'm still here." Arlena looked at Finn, seeing the pain and hope mixed in his eyes. She knew he was fighting against time, wanting to find purpose before his life ended. However, the responsibility of raising a child alone was something she hadn't even considered. "Finn, I understand what this means to you, truly. But the idea of being alone with that responsibility is frightening," Arlena admitted, sitting beside him and holding his hands. "I don't know if I'm ready for that. Not without you." The silence settled between them, each lost in their own thoughts as they went to bed. Morning arrived with a gentle sound of rain tapping against the windows, bringing with it a chill that wasn't just from the outside. Finn woke with a sense of anxiety in his chest, a feeling that something was about to change. Arlena was in the living room, surrounded by bags and wearing an expression of deep sadness. Finn stood by the door for a moment, watching her. His heart was heavy, as if it knew that this was a conversation that would change everything. "Arlena," Finn began, his voice choked with emotion. "Are you leaving?" She looked up at him, her eyes reflecting the pain and uncertainty she was also feeling. "Finn, we need to talk," she said gently, inviting him to sit beside her on the couch. Finn sat down, his heart tight, waiting for her words. "I've been thinking a lot about this," Arlena started, her tone filled with hesitation. "I love you, Finn. I love you so much. But the idea of adopting a child, especially now, is something I just can't handle. I can't bear the thought of raising a child on my own. It's a responsibility that frightens me." Finn nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on his shoulders. He wanted to argue, find words that could persuade her, but he knew it wouldn't be fair to pressure her any more than he already had. "I understand, Arlena. I really do," he replied, his voice faltering as he struggled to keep his composure. "But where does that leave us? I mean, what about us?" Arlena took his hand, squeezing it gently. "That's what I'm trying to say, Finn. I need some time to think about everything. About us, about the future. I'm feeling overwhelmed." Those words hit Finn like a blow. He felt as if the ground was collapsing beneath him. The idea of losing Arlena was something he had never considered as a real possibility, even in the worst scenarios. "Are you saying you want to leave?" Finn asked, his heart breaking. Arlena nodded, tears starting to roll down her face. "Just for a while. I need to clear my mind. Please, understand." Finn looked at her, his own eyes now filled with tears. He felt powerless, unable to do anything to change the course of events. He knew he had to respect Arlena's need for space, but that didn't make the situation any less painful. Arlena stood up, moving toward the door with her bags. Finn followed, each step feeling like a silent farewell. At the door, they embraced, a gesture filled with love and sadness. "I'll come back, Finn. I promise. But right now, I need this time," she whispered in his ear before stepping away. Finn stood at the door, watching Arlena walk away down the sidewalk, disappearing into the rain. He felt a void enveloping him, as if a crucial part of his life was being ripped away. He knew he needed to reflect on what to do next, now that Arlena was temporarily out of his life. The pain of her departure was still fresh, but Finn also found himself thinking about the words Orson had said days earlier. "You may not be able to change the world for everyone, but you can change the world for one person." From that moment on, Finn was determined not to give up. With or without Arlena, Finn wanted to ensure that his remaining time was meaningful and full of purpose. Finn was facing a new chapter in his life. Despite the recent devastating news about his health, he was not willing to give up on his dream of becoming a parent. There was something deeply ingrained in his heart that compelled him to make a difference, to find a purpose that would transcend his own limited time on Earth. That morning, he awoke with a mix of nervousness and determination. He dressed carefully, looking in the mirror and repeating to himself that today was the day everything would start to change. He was about to take a significant step toward a long-held desire, adopting a child and giving them the love and family he had always wanted to share. Upon arriving at the local adoption agency, Finn felt a flutter of nervousness in his stomach. The building's facade was simple, but it had an aura of hope that seemed to radiate through its walls. He entered the building with steady steps, though his heart raced. The receptionist, a kind woman named Megan, was busy behind the desk, but upon noticing Finn, she gave him a warm smile. "Good morning. How can I help you today?" "Hi, I'm here to learn more about adoption," Finn replied, trying to keep his voice steady. He wasn't sure how he would be received, but he was determined to try. Megan nodded, understanding the seriousness in his expression, and asked him to wait for a moment. She made a quick phone call, and soon informed Finn that the social worker would be ready to see him. After a few minutes, a door next to the desk opened, and Regina appeared. She had a warm presence, with eyes that radiated understanding and kindness. With a smile, she gestured for Finn to follow her to her office. "Hello, Finn. I'm Regina. It's a pleasure to meet you," she said as they shook hands. "The pleasure is mine," Finn replied, feeling a bit more at ease. Regina's office was welcoming, with toys scattered on shelves and photographs of children in happy situations, capturing the essence of what Finn hoped to achieve. "So, tell me a little about what brought you here today," Regina began as she settled behind her desk. Finn took a moment to breathe deeply before he began to speak. He told Regina about his recent medical discovery, about how the news of his terminal illness had changed his perspective on life, and how it had led him to want to adopt a child. "I know my time is limited," Finn admitted, feeling a pang in his heart as he spoke those words aloud. "But I want to use that time to do something meaningful. I've always wanted to be a father and offer love to a child who needs it. I feel like this is something I can truly do, something that can make a difference in someone's life." Regina listened attentively, her expression shifting from understanding to concern. She paused before responding, carefully choosing her words. "I understand and greatly appreciate your desire to make a difference, Finn. However, there are certain considerations we need to take into account when it comes to adoption, especially regarding the child's long-term stability and well-being," Regina explained, her voice gentle yet firm. "I know my medical condition could be a barrier," Finn continued, not wanting to avoid the topic, "but I'm willing to face any challenges that come with it. I'm here because I believe I can truly offer something special to a child. It may be for a short time, but I want it to be filled with love and care." Regina nodded slowly, admiring Finn's courage and determination. She knew the process wouldn't be easy, but she also knew that sometimes the most challenging situations could result in beautiful stories of love and transformation. "Let's see what we can do, Finn. I promise I will consider all possibilities and see how we can help you," Regina said, her tone indicating that she was willing to give Finn's dream a chance despite the challenges. After the meeting with Regina, Finn felt more hopeful than he had in days. The connection he felt with Lennox was something he couldn't fully describe. There was a mutual empathy, a silent understanding that seemed to transcend the barriers of their respective difficult situations. Regina, observing the interaction, recognized the authenticity of the connection. Finn was genuinely interested in Lennox, and she also noticed that Lennox seemed more at ease in Finn's presence, as if she had finally found someone who truly understood her. Sitting next to Regina, Finn felt a wave of gratitude for her giving him this opportunity. The conversation with her was about to decide the course of his life, and he hoped that the connection he and Lennox shared would be the deciding factor. "I really appreciate you giving me the chance to meet Lennox," Finn told Regina. "It was an amazing encounter, and I feel that I have so much to offer her, even if the time I have is limited." Regina nodded, her gaze reflecting a mixture of understanding and professionalism. "I will take your words and the interaction with Lennox very seriously. It's clear that you have a strong desire to provide love and support for her, and that is essential for any adoption." She paused, pondering before continuing. "Additionally, I understand that you are facing a difficult health situation. However, the way you are handling it, the way you wish to make a difference in Lennox's life, is admirable. I will discuss this with the board and evaluate all available options." Finn felt a weight lift off his shoulders. He knew that the path ahead would still be full of challenges, but the mere chance of creating a future with Lennox brought a new sense of purpose and hope. As he left the adoption agency, Finn looked up at the cloudy sky and smiled. The journey was far from easy, but meeting Lennox had sparked a glimmer of hope in his heart. He was determined to keep fighting, not just for his own life, but for the future he could build alongside the girl who now felt like a part of him. He knew that, regardless of how things unfolded, the time he would spend with Lennox would be precious. The idea of offering her a home, of being a meaningful part of her life, motivated him to face each day with a new perspective. Finn was ready to face the challenges to come, with the hope that, in the end, his journey would be marked by love and transformation for both himself and Lennox. The morning began with a silent anticipation in Finn's heart. He sat in the waiting room of the adoption agency, staring at the papers in his hand, but his thoughts were far beyond the printed words. Regina had promised to give an answer today, and Finn knew this could be the day that would change his life forever. Regina entered the room with a gentle smile, sitting down across from him. "Finn," she began, her voice calm but filled with empathy, "after much deliberation, we have decided that you can adopt Lennox." Finn felt a wave of relief and emotion wash over him, as if all the weight of the world had been lifted off his shoulders. He blinked rapidly, fighting back the tears that threatened to fall. "Thank you, Regina. Thank you for believing in us," Finn replied, his voice heavy with gratitude. Regina smiled and stood up to shake Finn's hand. "I know Lennox will be in good hands. I hope this is the start of something truly special for both of you." Finn left the agency with his heart racing and a genuine joy lighting up his face. He went directly to Lennox's school, where she was waiting for him with her drawing backpack slung over her shoulder. Upon seeing him, Lennox ran towards him, her eyes sparkling with excitement.
Finn!"
Lennox exclaimed, her smile as radiant as the sun. "Hi, Lennox," Finn replied, bending down to her level. "Ready to go home?" Lennox nodded vigorously, and together they walked towards Finn's car, laughing over small jokes and exchanging funny stories about their days. Finn was amazed by the positive energy Lennox radiated, a vitality that seemed to defy any darkness. The car ride home was filled with conversation and laughter. Lennox talked animatedly about her favorite drawings and how she dreamed of visiting a real forest someday. Finn listened intently, enchanted by how Lennox viewed the world with such a unique and colorful perspective. When they arrived at Finn's home, Lennox paused for a moment at the entrance, looking around with curious eyes and a hopeful smile. Finn felt his heart warm seeing Lennox so happy and eager about her new home.
"Come in, Lennox."
"I want to show you the house," Finn said, gesturing for her to enter. They spent some time exploring the rooms, Finn showing Lennox the bedroom he had prepared for her. It was a cozy space, decorated with her favorite colors and with a special corner for her drawings. Lennox ran to the window, admiring the view of the blooming garden. "It's beautiful here, Finn." "Thank you," Lennox said, looking at him with sincere gratitude. "I'm glad you like it," Finn replied, smiling. "I hope you feel at home." In the following days, Finn and Lennox began to build a routine together, discovering the small pleasures of shared life. They cooked meals together, turning the kitchen into a true culinary laboratory where they experimented with new recipes and flavors. Lennox loved helping Finn choose the ingredients and often ended up with flour on her nose, eliciting laughs from both of them. Weekends were reserved for outdoor excursions, something Lennox greatly enjoyed. Finn took her to parks where they could walk among the trees, and Lennox could capture the beauty of nature in her sketchbook. Finn watched with admiration as Lennox drew, each stroke of hers a pure expression of creativity and passion. As the days turned into weeks, Finn and Lennox began to realize they had become more than just friends. The bond they had formed was one of genuine love, a love that transcended the difficult circumstances they were both in. Finn was becoming the father figure Lennox had longed for, and Lennox was bringing renewed joy into Finn's life. One day, while they were sitting on the living room sofa, Lennox looked at Finn with a thoughtful expression. "Finn," she began, hesitating for a moment before continuing, "do you mind if I call you Dad?" The question surprised Finn, and he felt a lump of emotion in his throat. He had never imagined that those words could have such a profound impact on his heart. "I would be honored if you called me Dad, Lennox," Finn replied, his voice soft but full of emotion. Lennox smiled, satisfied, and moved in for a hug. In that moment, Finn knew that his decision to adopt Lennox had been the best choice he had ever made. He had little time, but each day, he felt more determined to make every moment a gift for Lennox, filling their days with love, laughter, and unforgettable memories. As the months passed, the love between father and daughter grew stronger each day. The morning started like any other. Finn woke up to the familiar smell of fresh coffee, something he always made for himself and Lennox. But that day, something felt off. As he headed to Lennox's room to wake her up, he found her still lying down, with an expression of fatigue that didn't match her usual morning energy. "Good morning, sleepyhead," Finn tried to cheer her up, but Lennox only opened her eyes slowly and gave a weak smile. "Good morning, Dad," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. Finn felt a chill run down his spine. In the past few months, they had shared wonderful moments together, but the shadow of Lennox's illness was always present, a constant reminder that their time together might be shorter than he wished. "Are you feeling okay?" Finn asked, trying not to show his concern. "I'm a bit tired, I guess," Lennox admitted, trying to sit up, but her movements were slow and hesitant. Finn knelt beside the bed, observing his daughter's face carefully. He noticed the pallor and fragility in Lennox's eyes. A growing worry took over him, and although he tried to stay calm, his heart was racing. "How about taking a day off today?" Finn suggested, trying to sound casual. "We can stay home, watch movies, and eat popcorn." Lennox nodded, but Finn noticed she was struggling to maintain her energy, something that had never happened before. With each passing hour, Lennox seemed weaker, and her breathing, once calm and regular, was now a bit labored. The tension grew in Finn's chest, a premonition of what was to come. By the afternoon, when Lennox's fever spiked, he knew he needed to act. With trembling hands, he called the doctor, describing Lennox's symptoms, while his heart raced with worry. "You need to bring her to the hospital immediately," the doctor instructed in a grave voice that only heightened Finn's anxiety. The drive to the hospital was silent, interrupted only by the words of encouragement Finn tried to offer Lennox. He held her hand tightly, feeling the frailty of that small palm in his, promising himself he would do anything to protect her. Upon arriving at the hospital, the urgency of the situation became evident. Doctors and nurses moved swiftly, conducting tests and monitoring every detail of Lennox's condition. Finn watched from a distance, feeling powerless and overwhelmed by the weight of reality. The hours dragged on, each minute bringing new worries. Finn stayed by Lennox's side, holding her hand whenever allowed, trying to convey strength and love through his touch. He had never felt so powerless. Seeing Lennox struggle against the illness broke his heart in a way he couldn't describe. As he anxiously awaited news, Finn's mind was a whirlwind of emotions. He remembered all the happy moments they had shared, every laugh, every adventure, and every promise made to Lennox. Now, more than ever, He needed to fulfill his promise to be by her side. When he finally had the chance to speak with the doctor, the man's face was serious, an expression Finn recognized as a sign that things were not going well. "Finn, Lennox's situation is delicate. We need to monitor her closely over the next 24 hours. We're doing everything we can, but be prepared for the possibility that the situation might worsen," the doctor said with an empathy that, although comforting, did not lessen Finn's fear. Finn thanked the doctor and returned to Lennox, who was lying in a hospital bed surrounded by monitors emitting rhythmic sounds. He pulled up a chair and sat beside her, holding her hand firmly. "Lennox, I'm here," he said softly, though his voice was filled with emotion. "I promise I'm not going anywhere." Lennox opened her eyes, her expression still fragile, but there was a small spark of determination there. "I know, Dad. And I know I'll be okay, as long as you're with me." Those words touched Finn's heart deeply. He knew Lennox was strong, perhaps even stronger than he could comprehend. At that moment, Finn made a silent promise to himself that, no matter what happened, he would do everything in his power to make Lennox feel loved and protected. The silence in the hospital room was profound and laden with palpable melancholy. Lennox, now weakened by illness, lay in her bed, her tired eyes gazing at the ceiling. The spark of hope that once lit her gaze had faded, but her determination to leave a final mark on the world remained strong. She knew her time was running out, and she wanted to leave something for Finn, something that showed how much he meant to her. With trembling hands, Lennox picked up a piece of paper and a pen, the last task she imposed upon herself despite her exhaustion. She began to write with a handwriting that, though imprecise, carried undeniable emotional weight. The words came with difficulty, but they were imbued with a sincerity that transcended pain. "Dear Dad," she started, the words slowly making their way from her mind to the paper. "If you are reading this, then my time has come, and I don't want you to be sad. I want you to know how much you meant to me." As Lennox wrote, tears began to fall, blurring some of the ink. Each word was a reflection of her gratitude and love, an effort to express what her heart felt. She remembered the happy moments they shared, every laugh, every hug, and how Finn was always there for her, even when everything seemed to be falling apart. "I never knew what true love was until I found you. You gave me a family, a home, and a smile on the hardest days," she continued, her words carrying an emotional depth that only a child with such a brief and precious perspective could understand. "I know it was hard for you, and I want you to know that I will never forget what you did for me. You made me feel important and loved, and that's all I ever wanted." With a heavy heart, Lennox paused, feeling that words were insufficient to convey the extent of her gratitude. She took a deep breath and continued, "Dad, you are the best father I could have. Even if I am not here anymore, I will always be with you, in your heart. Please don't forget that I love you very much, and that my life was better because of you." With a final sigh, Lennox signed the letter, her tired hands completing the last gesture. She placed the letter in an envelope and asked the nurse to keep it for Finn, ensuring that he would receive it. Later, when Finn entered the room, his eyes were red and swollen from a sleepless night. Concern and love were etched on his face. He found the letter beside Lennox's bed. The envelope seemed light but carried the weight of the emotions he was about to uncover. With trembling hands, Finn opened the envelope, and as he read each word, he felt as if his heart was being torn apart and healed at the same time. Lennox's words were a bastion of love and gratitude that struck him with unexpected force. He knew she had fought to write that letter, and every word resonated with a painful and beautiful truth. Tears began to roll down Finn's face as he read, pain and joy intertwining in a whirlwind of emotions. He saw the impact he had on Lennox's life, and how much she cherished every moment together. The letter reaffirmed the purpose Finn felt in his last days: to do everything possible to give Lennox the best moments of her life. Lennox's letter was a precious gift, a reminder that, despite the pain and loss, the love they shared had been real and deep. For Finn, Lennox's message was not just a goodbye but a confirmation that, despite the short time they had, he had made a significant difference in someone's life. The soft light of the setting sun filtered through the hospital room windows, creating a serene atmosphere that contrasted sharply with the pain Finn felt in his heart. Lennox, lying in bed, appeared tranquil despite the suffering her young life had endured. Finn sat beside her, his face weary but his eyes shining with a mix of love and sadness. He knew that the moment of farewell was near, and he was determined to make every second count. Finn held Lennox's hand, her skin pale and cold to the touch, but his presence seemed to bring a bit of warmth. He adjusted the chair beside the bed, sitting as close as possible, unwilling to miss a single moment with the girl who had become like a daughter to him. With a choked voice, he began telling stories. Stories that were about the adventures they imagined together and the small moments of joy they shared. He tried to use gentle, comforting words, his stories serving as a way to calm and soothe Lennox in her final moments. "Lennox," Finn began, his voice heavy with emotion, "remember that time we made hot chocolate and you insisted on putting marshmallows in every sip? I've never seen anyone so happy over something so simple. You always brought light into my days." Lennox gave a faint smile, her eyes shining with a type of gratitude that only someone who had known true love and kindness could display. Finn's pain was palpable, but he tried to remain strong so that Lennox wouldn't feel an additional weight. He knew that his words might be the last memory she had of her life. "What I'll remember most," Finn continued, gripping her hand, "is how you taught me what it really means to live. You faced each day with a courage and joy that are inspiring. I'm so grateful to have had the chance to be part of your life." Lennox looked at Finn, her eyes holding a calm and serene glow, as if she was absorbing each word with the same intensity with which he loved her. She squeezed his hand gently, a simple gesture but one full of meaning. "Dad," she whispered, her voice weak but filled with love, "I just want you to know that I love you so much. Thank you for every smile, for every day you made special. You gave me a life full of love, and that's all I could ask for." Finn felt his heart break with each word Lennox spoke. The farewell was being said in a way that was both painful and beautiful. He couldn't imagine life without Lennox's presence, but he was determined to be strong until the last moment. "I love you too, Lennox," Finn said, his voice breaking with emotion. "You will always have a special place in my heart, and I will always remember you, the joy you brought into my life." Lennox's breathing began to slow, her eyes closing gently as a serene smile remained on her lips. Finn continued to hold her hand, whispering words of love and comfort until the very end. With one last sigh, Lennox passed away, leaving Finn with an immense sorrow but also a sense of peace, knowing that he had done everything he could to bring a little happiness into Lennox's final days. The loss was overwhelming, but the precious memories they shared would be an eternal legacy of love and strength. Finn felt an enormous emptiness but also a deep gratitude for having been part of Lennox's life, a light that, even in its brief brilliance, illuminated the world in an unparalleled way. Finn's home was steeped in a deep silence, a constant echo of Lennox's absence. The walls, once filled with laughter and shared stories, now seemed empty and cold. Every corner of the house carried memories of the afternoons spent together, of toys left in disarray, of the little footsteps that once lived there. Finn spent his days wandering through these silent spaces, his mind filled with a profound grief that seemed endless. Sitting on the couch, Finn held a small stuffed bear that Lennox loved, the toy still carrying the faint, sweet scent of her. He closed his eyes and let the tears fall, feeling a sadness that seemed to invade every fiber of his being. The void Lennox left was immense, a space that felt impossible to fill. The pain of the loss was so great that sometimes Finn wondered if he would ever find meaning in it all. In a moment of introspection, Finn began to realize that the time he spent with Lennox had not been in vain. Her presence, though brief, had left an indelible mark on his heart. He reflected on the lessons he learned from her courage, from the way she faced each day with a smile, and on the importance of loving without reservation. Lennox's loss had shown Finn the true meaning of compassion and the impact that an act of love can have on someone's life. As he struggled to cope with his grief, Finn received support from his best friend, Orson. He had witnessed what Finn and Lennox had shared and understood the depth of the loss he was facing. "The difference you made in Lennox's life is immeasurable. Don't forget that, even in pain, you brought a light into her life. The love and joy you gave her will not be forgotten," Orson said. Orson's words were a balm to Finn's pain, helping him remember that despite the immense sadness, he had accomplished something significant. Lennox had left a mark on his life that went beyond her physical absence. Every memory, every smile shared, and every moment of joy lived together were now part of her legacy. The pain of losing her was real and deep, but the gratitude for the time they spent together and the lessons learned became a beacon of hope for Finn. Sitting at the kitchen table, Finn began to scribble ideas in a notebook, his heart heavy but his mind buzzing. He wanted to do more than just remember Lennox with longing. He wanted to honor her memory in a way that could benefit other children facing similar challenges. The idea of creating a support fund for sick children began to take shape in his mind, and he felt this was what he needed to do to continue Lennox's legacy. The first step was a challenge. Finn knew he needed support and resources to make his idea a reality. He spent hours researching, contacting charity organizations, and talking to professionals about how to create and manage a fund. Each call and meeting brought a mix of hope and uncertainty. He had a purpose now, something that went beyond his grief and could truly make a difference. Over time, Finn managed to gather the necessary documentation and establish the fund. The Lennox Hope Fund was created with the mission of providing experiences that could bring joy and hope to sick children. Finn wanted these children to have special moments, something that could brighten their days and create happy memories, just as Lennox had done in his life. The fund began to raise donations and organize events to help finance activities, including outings, celebrity meet and greets, and even small wishes. Building the fund was not an easy task. Finn faced financial and logistical challenges and often felt overwhelmed. However, the vision of Lennox, the memory of her smile, and the desire to do something meaningful kept Finn steadfast. As the fund began to gain traction and impact other children's lives, Finn felt a renewed sense of purpose. He saw the smiles and joys that the fund provided and felt he was fulfilling an important part of Lennox's legacy. Although the pain of losing Lennox was still present, it was now accompanied by the satisfaction of knowing that her memory was helping to create special moments for other children facing similar challenges. Over time, Finn realized that despite her limited time, she had made an indelible mark on the world through her love and Lennox's legacy. The fund and the memories he created with her became a vital part of his life. Every time he met a new family touched by the fund or heard a new story of positive impact, he felt he was fulfilling his purpose. Tell me in the comments what this story taught you. I really want to know. Stay tuned for another emotional story.